and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Let the doors be open. Statements by members. Déclaration des députés. L'honorable député de Bar-Richelieu.
The honourable member for Bar-Richelieu, Nicolas Bécancourt. Mr. Speaker, on November 18th, the Canada Council awarded Gabriel Nadeau-Dubois the Governor-General's Literary Prize for his essay Tenir Tête, with the prize money of $25,000. The Bloc Québécois congratulates him warmly. What deserves our congratulations even more is the fact that the author decided to give this money to a campaign called Coule Pas Chez Nous. It's a citizen group that are standing up to the oil companies that are threatening to turn Quebec into a tar sands highway. Quebecers have donated more than $300,000 to this cause because civil society cannot count on this House to defend its interests, and because Quebecers, if they can't count on their governments, will count on one another. Because we have expressed the clear will, and I will say it again, your oil sands oil, we don't want it in our backyard.
My constituent from Barrie, Ontario, Rainer McCullough, has been named as this year's recipient of the David Blanchard Spirit Award. Rainer is a longtime supporter of the Royal Victoria Regional Health Centre, which hands out this annual award. The award is given to people who impact the hospital and whose actions inspire others. Rainer most recently established a special trust for the education of RVH staff, patients, and family members who look after youth and adolescents with mental health and addictions issues. The creation of a child and youth mental health program is a priority for RVH, as no such service exists in the region. Rainer is a past chairperson of the hospital and foundation boards and was a force behind building the new hospital in the late 1990s. Mr. Speaker, Mr. McCullough is a very worthy recipient of this honour, and his words about why he volunteers at his local hospital encapsulates the spirit of this wonderful man. Rainer says, "For me, volunteerism is the rent we pay for the space we use while we're here at RVH."
The honourable member for Vaudreuil-Soulanges. Since 1981, the White Ribbon Campaign enables us to join together to fight violence in society. It also reminds us that men have to stand shoulder to shoulder with women to condemn violence against women.
Approached me in the past few weeks wondering why victims of sexual harassment do not share their identities or stories with the general public. I tell them women still continue to be blamed for their actions. Slut-shaming and victim-blaming are still prevalent in our culture, and this must stop. We need an open dialogue to heal. Sharing our stories, anonymously or not, allows us this healing.
I hope in 2015 we will continue working together to build a more equitable future between genders, a future where women will be free to make their own choices.
It is her decision.
The best tool to fight this violence is to reassert our commitment to human rights.
Inspiration for the coming year, that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of togetherness.
The honourable member for Don Valley East.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of my constituents of Don Valley East, I am proud to support our government's effort on maternal, newborn and child health. Absolutely. For over 4 years, our government has identified this as Canada's flagship development priority. By 2015, our government will have provided $2.85 billion in funding since 2010. And this year we announced Canada's continuing commitment of $3.5 billion to improve the health of mothers and children for the period of 2015 to 2020. Supporting the global efforts to end the preventable deaths of mothers and newborns and children under the age of 5. I commend the efforts of Senator Asha Seth, who has proposed a motion to establish an international maternal, newborn and child health week each year during the second week of May, Mother's Day week. I look forward to the support of all members in this House for this initiative. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Kings Hants.
Mr. Speaker, November is a month to reflect on those who've given their lives and to honour all those who have served. Over 50 years ago, the Royal Canadian Legion launched a poster and literary contest open to all Canadian students to foster the tradition of remembrance among young people. This year, 2 people from my riding won first place in the Junior Literary Contest for students in grades 4, 5 and 6. Roman Javorek of Kentville, a student at Northeast King's Educational Centre, won in the poem division for his poem, I Hold Your Hope. Lauren Gatto of Elmsdale, a student at Elmsdale District School, won in the essay division for her essay, The History of Remembrance Day. I congratulate Roman and Lauren on their incredible success in this national contest. Next year, their work will be displayed in the Canadian War Museum with the other winning entries, and they will enjoy a trip to Ottawa for the Remembrance Day ceremony. I want to thank the Royal Canadian Legion for their efforts to foster the tradition of remembrance among young Canadians.
The honourable member for Saskatoon Humboldt.
Mr. Speaker, founded 18 years ago, Saskatoon Pregnancy Options Centre is a community outreach that provides free pregnancy tests, counselling, material assistance and references for prenatal, medical care and legal services. Led by Director Marilyn Jackson, Saskatoon Pregnancy Options Centre assists Saskatoon area women and families who are dealing with unplanned pregnancies. They provide emotional and physical support to women who are going through an uncertain time of life. While they are, for many women, a safe, caring place to talk and share, hands-on support is not neglected. Maternity clothes, baby clothes, and formula are provided to new and soon-to-be new mums who need a loving hand. Parenting classes and educational assistance are a growing part of their outreach to the community. Supported by donations and led by a volunteer board, they have made a real contribution to many lives in Saskatoon. I'm sure many members of this House will want to join me in congratulating them on their fine work. Life, what a beautiful choice.
The honourable member for Halifax.
Mr. Speaker, they're tweeting about it, posting sneak peek photos. They're peering through the fence, trying to get a glimpse. Everyone's talking about it in Halifax, and on December 13th, they'll actually be able to go inside and see for themselves. It's the new Halifax Central Library, an incredible civic landmark for our community. This building is so much more than a library. It's an example of what can be achieved through federal, provincial, and municipal collaboration. It's a building for our future that reimagines what a library can be. This library will blend the best of traditional library services with new and innovative spaces, making it a vital center for learning and culture in the heart of our community. It's a public building for all of us, an adaptable and flexible space that will meet the changing needs of our community. Congratulations to everyone who participated in making this dream a reality. Please join me. I'm going to grab a coffee, a nice book, and I'll see you in Halifax's new living room.
The honourable member for London North Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This week at the Collider Centre in my great city of London, Ontario, the Prime Minister announced $5.8 billion in new infrastructure that will go towards modernizing and repairing various infrastructure assets that will provide employment opportunities across the country, including the National Research Council in my riding, which will be expanding. Many Londoners, including incoming London Mayor Matt Brown, heralded this announcement as good news for London. He said of the funding, an investment of this nature is just fantastic news for our community. It's fantastic news for our region. While the NDP member for London Fanshawe continues to paint our community with doom and gloom after this great announcement, our government is busy taking action to put forward measures that will lead to job growth and a stronger economy. I am proud to be a Londoner, Mr. Speaker.
Hear, hear. The honourable member for Ottawa Orleans.
Mr. Speaker, there is in this chamber a gentle giant. Appointed to his post by our Prime Minister, this Titan took office in September 2006. Knowing that he only had a limited time to remain incognito, he worked his first week wearing the green uniform of a maintenance worker, shining brass railings, mopping the marble floor, studying human nature. Une semaine plus tard,
a week later, while sitting in the Speaker's chair, I noticed the same man wearing a different uniform, sitting at the other end of the chamber.
As a rookie, I couldn't help but thinking, boy, they promote quickly here. Mr. Speaker, Kevin Vickers is the 9th Sergeant at Arms in our history. In the last 8 years, we witnessed that he's a gentle, that he's a man who is gentle yet firm. Today, I wanted to share with you that his strength also comes from his personal modesty. So the ovation that we gave him last month was well deserved, even if it embarrassed him. En lui rendant hommage aujourd'hui, je tiens aussi.
In paying tribute to him today, I also want to thank him for presiding over a team of exceptional professionals. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians have been watching with deep concern the tragic events in Ferguson, Missouri. They remind us that racism and intolerance still exist and that we must be vigilant in our quest for a society of equality and justice. Unfortunately, Canada is not immune to these negative forces. In Richmond, British Columbia, an organization called Immigration Watch Canada recently put up a sign at a major intersection that said, "Fight gridlock, cut immigration." Worse, this group's spokesperson stated that there are, quote, "too many immigrants living in Richmond who are making it unbearable for the existing European residents," end quote. With thinly veiled prejudice, he is calling for Canada to slash immigration levels by 90% and threatening further provocative actions. Canada is a nation of immigrants from all over the world, and our country was and is built on the contributions of us all. We are also a society who prizes acceptance, equality, and respect for every resident, regardless of origin. I ask all members of this House to join me in condemning this racist group and its unacceptable behaviour.
The honourable member for Selkirk Interlake.
Mr. Speaker, this Conservative government remains steadfast in its support for a free and sovereign Ukraine. Absolutely. Last August, the Canadian Armed Forces transported a large amount of military supplies to the Ukrainian Armed Forces. Today, we're adding to that commitment. The Canadian Armed Forces will be donating 30,000 winter coats and winter pants, 70,000 pairs of Gore-Tex boots, and 4,500 pair of gloves. The first delivery will be made by a C-17 Globemaster heavy lift aircraft before the end of this month. Our government is also coordinating the purchase of even further military equipment for Ukraine. This includes tactical communication systems, explosive ordnance disposal equipment, tactical medical kits, a field hospital, and night goggles. President Poroshenko has said that such shipments are saving Ukrainian lives. As the Prime Minister has said, whether it takes 5 months or 50 years to liberate it, we will never, ever recognize the illegal Russian occupation of any Ukrainian territory. Absolutely not.
The honourable member for La Salle-Mar. Mr. Speaker, 2 women in my riding died in the fall. A member of the Historical Society in La Salle for 52 years kept the records and wrote in the local newspaper. As a member, I religiously read her column to find out about events and historical events in the community.
A teacher at La Salle Catholic High for many years, was the director of Picai's Italian school until the age of 85. She has also contributed immensely to tell the stories of Italians in Ville-et-Mar and was also very active on social media, having thousands of friends on Facebook. Je salue la mémoire de...
I salute the memory of these 2 women from my riding who contributed so much to the wealth and culture of our community thanks to their enthusiasm, which never flagged with age.
St. Marie.
Mr. Speaker, no government in Canadian history has a better record of putting money back into the pockets of Canadians than this Conservative government. Under the strong leadership of our Prime Minister, we've cut taxes not once, not twice, but a whopping 180 times. Under our new family tax cut, 100% of Canadian families with children will benefit with an average benefit of $1,100. That includes low-income parents and single parents. But, Mr. Speaker, we know that if given the chance, both opposition parties would take back these benefits and force every Canadian to pay more tax. The Liberal leader doesn't want Canadians to be able to choose how to spend their money because he believes he knows better. Mr. Speaker, Canadian families know that they are better off under our Conservative government.
The honourable member for Vancouver Quadra.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to rise today to pay tribute to Navy Appreciation Day held yesterday on Parliament Hill. This event's an all-party celebration to recognize and thank members of the Royal Canadian Navy for their important work and their exemplary service to Canada. And it's an occasion to recognize Navy heroes. I was struck by the extraordinary professionalism and leadership of the 6 heroes who received certificates at the ceremony in Senate chambers with Vice Admiral Mark Norman. Canadians are also very well served by the Navy League of Canada and its thousands of volunteers who support maritime issues and all youth through the Navy League Cadets and the Canadian Sea Cadets. A special thanks goes out to Madame Louise Mercier, National President, and her team for making the day and the well-attended evening reception a huge success and for their work throughout the year. Canadians can justifiably be very proud of the invaluable contributions of the members of the Royal Canadian Navy and indeed of all of our Canadian forces, and we thank them.
The honourable member for Lotbinière-Chute-la-Chaudière. Mr. Speaker, the Liberal leader has already said he could convince Canadians to accept new tax hikes and has also promised to reverse our tax relief. Our government believes that Canadian families ought to be trusted to spend their hard-earned money as they deem necessary. The family tax cut that will help 100% of families with children by putting more money in their pockets and giving families the freedom to spend it as they want. And with the enhanced universal child care benefit, parents can expect to receive almost $2,000 per year for every child under 6, and $720 per year for every child between 6 and 17. We're proud that over 4 million families will benefit by an average of over $1,100 per year. Mr. Speaker, our Conservative government delivers on our promises, and we are proud to be the only party that stands up for and trusts hardworking Canadian families. Thank you. The honourable member for Longueuil, Pierre Boucher. Mr. Speaker, the Quebec National Assembly passed a unanimous motion calling on the federal government to provide the CBC the resources it needs to carry out its mission. Quebec's elected officials are underscoring the importance of having a strong French-language public broadcaster and regional news. CBC is at the heart of Quebec and Canadian culture. The Conservative government cannot ignore the unanimous resolution, nor the resolution in committee yesterday. On November 16th, all of Quebec was up in arms in the streets and now at the legislature. Everyone is so attached to our public broadcaster, but the member for St. Boniface still thinks she's the parliamentary secretary for finance. I now call on the Minister of Heritage to stand up and defend CBC.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservative Party is the only party that believes in putting more money back into the pockets of Canadians. Our historic family tax cut will benefit 100% of Canadian families with children. The average benefit is $1,100, and the majority of benefits will flow to low and middle-income families. For instance, did you know that a single mother with 2 children earning $30,000 will benefit by a whopping $1,500 per year? Excellent. Both the Liberals and the NDP would take this money away. Perhaps the Liberal leader should explain why he thinks the spending schemes of the Liberal Party are more important than priorities of Canadian families.
Members out of time. Oral questions. Questions orales. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Auditor General revealed that the government is subsidizing Nutrition North to the tune of $3,200 for a family with 2 children, and yet the fresh food up there is 10 times more expensive than here. But the Conservatives admitted that only $110 of that amount went to families. So here's my question for the Prime Minister, and it's simple. Of these $3,200, $110 went to the families. Where did the rest of the money go? Who pocketed the $3,000? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, as I said yesterday, the federal government spends over $60 million to help the people in the north to deal with the high costs of groceries.
Funding that we've given to Nutrition North. Mr. Speaker, we've seen a 25% increase in delivery of healthy foods to the north and a decrease of some 6%, about $100 a month, in food costs for families. The Auditor General has observed that there could be better information gathering on this program. The Department has accepted those recommendations.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
That's what we're trying to do, gather information. $3,200 cost per family of 2 children. $110 went to the family who got the other $3,000. That was the question. Because those are their own figures, Mr. Speaker. That's abysmal management. And worse, yesterday, as his minister laughed here in the House, as he has a want to do, even now, families in Rankin Inlet were foraging for food in the town dump. APTN reports that a lack of affordable food has some families in the north scavenging in landfills. Does the Prime Minister not feel any shame that families in the north are getting their food in the town dump?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Seriously, Mr. Speaker, the only thing shameful here is that the government has provided massive funding to provide support for nutritious food in the north, and that has been opposed every step of the way by the new Democratic Party. The reality, of course, Mr. Speaker, as I've said repeatedly, we have put additional monies into this. We've seen a significant increase in fresh food going to the north, as has been acknowledged, also been acknowledged that the costs of that are declining, but the government and the department will accept the recommendations for improvements in the program in the Auditor General's report.
The
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Wrote to the Prime Minister asking him to make mental health for our vets a personal priority. Now that the Auditor General has exposed the gaping holes in mental health services for our vets, will the Prime Minister finally take action? Will the Prime Minister make a personal commitment, do right by our military, and fix mental health services for our vets once and for all?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Auditor General observed in his report yesterday that this government, in fact, it's this government that has put in place most of the mental health services for our vets. He examined, he knows he admits that those are very important support services. The government continues to expand. He examined 2 programs in particular, the rehabilitation program, in which timely access is being held. He observed on the disability benefits program that although 94% of eligible recipients are getting benefits, he observed that the process is cumbersome, complex, and the government and the department has accepted the recommendations to improve that.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
But, Mr. Speaker, according to the so-called universality of service rule, a soldier who reveals that he is suffering from PTSD can be actually released from the Army. I even met some servicemen and women who were released just a few weeks before being declared eligible for their pension and their benefits. How can the Prime Minister expect our servicemen and women to seek help if they are afraid of losing their job or their pension? He knows this is a contradiction. Why doesn't he act on this? There are people who are losing their pension just a few weeks away from the end of their 10 years. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. The Auditor General did not say that, Mr. Speaker. In reality, the Auditor General observed that this government has put in place important health support measures for our veterans' mental health and the employees of the Army, and we are very proud of these supports for our armed forces. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The fact that 250 Afghan vets were medically discharged before qualifying for their pension, is he proud of that? There are 95 victims of thalidomide living in Canada. They struggle every day with tasks that most of us would take for granted because of disabilities inflicted upon them by a drug approved and recommended in the past by the Canadian government. Other countries are already providing compensation to those affected by thalidomide. Will the Prime Minister bring together all parties in this House and support ongoing compensation for thalidomide victims in Canada?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, as the government has already said, as the Minister has said, this was a terrible series of events. Those of us who were raised in the 1960s remember very well. There was a settlement, as you know, in the 1990s, but we understand there are ongoing needs. The Department and the Minister have been in discussions with the Victims Association. We look forward to moving forward on this matter.
The honourable member for Papineau.
Mr. Speaker, on the eve of the 25th anniversary of the tragic events at Polytechnique, we will be debating C-42, which would allow someone to circulate freely with a dangerous weapon in the trunk of his vehicle. Imagine if this vehicle was broken into. This bill would also give gun classification powers to politicians instead of to police officers. Will the Prime Minister recognize the danger in these provisions of the bill? Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, such assertions on the part of the Leader of the Liberal Party are false. The bill will allow...
There's no conceal and carry in this legislation. The fact of the matter is arms can only be transported between specific locations. It must be by the most direct route. The firearms must be in the trunk, in a locked case, and must be unloaded. And those are the facts, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Papineau.
Mr. Speaker, C-42 would allow handguns and assault weapons to be freely transported in a trunk anywhere within a province, even left parked outside the Canadian Tire or a local hockey arena. Imagine if the car carrying these weapons were broken into or stolen. This bill also takes classification decisions on guns away from police and puts them in the hands of politicians. Both these provisions threaten Canadians' safety. Will the government remove them from C-42?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, as I just said, and I will repeat, the statements the Liberal Party leader has made are recklessly irresponsible and false. The fact of the matter is, under this law, current law, and this law, Mr. Speaker, firearms can only be transported between specific locations. They must be in a locked case, they must be in a trunk, and they must be unloaded. And, Mr. Speaker, those are the facts, but we expect this kind of distortion from the party that brought in the long gun registry and is itching to bring it back.
The Honourable Member for Papineau. Mr. Speaker, the Auditor General told us yesterday veterans deserve better services. We were all touched by the story that Jennifer Mignot told us. It is not normal that there should be no financial support for people like her who have to quit their job to look after their spouse. Will the Prime Minister finally pledge to help our veterans, especially those who are dealing with mental health problems? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, what the Auditor General actually said is that he examined a number of programs put in place for the mental health of veterans, put in place by our government. He examined the rehabilitation program, and he said that the department has put in place important mechanisms to to give timely access. And for the program dealing with disability benefits, he said that 94% of all veterans were deemed eligible for mental health services, but obviously there is a long and complex process, and the department will respect these recommendations.
Member for Halifax.
The level of stress among our veterans is problematic. According to the Ombudsman, the suicide rate is 45% higher than in the general population. Despite numerous alarm signals, the government is dragging its feet. The Auditor General said that 1/4 of all veterans had to wait over 8 months before being able to have access to mental health care. That is unacceptable. Why is the Minister trying to save $1 billion on the backs of our veterans? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the Auditor General for recognizing that Veterans Affairs does indeed have a robust mental health strategy in place. that we have put in place mental health support, that we provide rehabilitation to veterans in a timely manner, and that we're working to improve the consultation process with our veterans. Mr. Speaker, again, it was our government that asked the Auditor General to review our services that we're providing to veterans so we can be better informed and ultimately make the process better, Mr. Speaker.
And the Honourable Member for Halifax.
Well, speaking of the mental health strategy, in 2009, the government committed to develop performance measures to assess if the mental health strategy was meeting the mental health needs of veterans. And the Auditor General has now confirmed that the minister never followed up on that commitment. He didn't even bother to collect data that would be helpful to make this eventual assessment. So can the minister explain to Canadians why he refused to fulfill this commitment and ensure that veterans receive the mental health services that they need?
The Honourable Parliament Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, Sunday, our government announced additional mental health support for Canadian Armed Forces personnel, veterans, and their families. We're investing in major new operational stress injury clinic in Halifax, Mr. Speaker. We're also opening new satellite locations across the country while expanding the current facility in the Greater Toronto area. Mr. Speaker, our government is committed towards our veterans, armed forces members, their families, and we will continue to work on their behalf.
Absolutely. And the Honourable Member for Halifax.
If they're so committed, then they need to actually act, Mr. Speaker. The universality of service rule has been called arbitrary and unfair by the Canadian Forces Ombudsman, yet the Conservatives insist on keeping a policy in place that discriminates against those suffering, it leads to more dismissals, and it robs Canadian Forces members of their pensions. So, given the outcry from members and veterans, will the Conservatives show some sense of compassion, and will they remove universality of service?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, in fact, the Canadian Armed Forces work with ill and severely injured personnel who are no longer able to serve, and they're provided up to 3 years to prepare for the transition to civilian life. The Armed Forces members can also transfer, if they wish, to cadet organizations, administration and training. I should point out to the honourable member that we've invested nearly $30 billion in delivering benefits, programs, and supports. None of this had the support of the opposition, but we will continue to support veterans and members of the armed forces.
The honourable member for Burnaby, New Westminster.
They want our support, but they're not defending veterans. That's the difference. The Conservatives are doing nothing to ensure that our servicemen and women and our veterans in distress have access to mental health services. Our servicemen and women have to serve 10 years before being entitled to a full pension. And if they reveal their symptoms, they risk being discharged from the forces and losing that pension. That's losing everything. And if they why would they keep quiet? Why would they say anything when they know they might be discharged? Will this minister help them receive the support they need? The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Of what takes place in armed forces. They work with these individuals, as I indicated, they work with them up to 3 years to facilitate their transfer to civilian life. Or they can, if they wish, they can transfer to cadet organizations, administration, and training. That being said, the honourable member said about mental health, well, he may have missed this, but we have now 25 operational stress injury clinics with frontline healthcare professionals and experts right across this country to work with our veterans. They may have missed that, Mr. Speaker, because they vote against all these measures.
The honourable member for Burnaby, New Westminster.
What we didn't miss is they closed 9 service offices across the country, Mr. Speaker. Conservatives have shown no sense of compassion for veterans. Just shallow talking points, more hollow boasting, and childish attacks on the opposition. Can we have some sense of shame from Conservatives about their failure to meet the basic needs of veterans? Will the Prime Minister now admit to veterans that their closing of regional offices, their court battles with veterans, their denial of benefits have been wrong? When will they finally take responsibility and apologize to our nation's veterans?
Mr. Speaker, as I mentioned earlier, we announced additional mental health support for Canada's veterans, armed forces personnel, family members, Mr. Speaker. There will now be 25 operational stress injury clinic, Mr. Speaker, across our country, Mr. Speaker. We are providing the benefits and services that our veterans so dearly need. When it comes to standing up for Canada's veterans, Mr. Speaker, our government has a strong record, even though the opposition continues to vote against these measures.
Member for Victoria.
The Conservatives have shown over and over again that they just can't be trusted to safeguard our personal information. This week, yet another privacy breach at the Canada Revenue Agency. This time, private financial information on hundreds of Canadians just got sent to the media. The minister has a legal duty to safeguard this information, Mr. Speaker, but time and time again at the CRA, misplaced laptops, unprotected websites, snooping employees, oh yeah, the latest excuse, human error. When will the minister take real action to stop this endless loop of privacy breaches in her department?
Privacy breach is completely unacceptable. I said that in the House floor and I say it again, and we are taking it extremely seriously. The Privacy Commissioner was notified of the breach, and at my direction, the CRA has launched an internal investigation into the breach with a review of security protocols. Following that internal investigation, appropriate remedial steps will be taken, including disciplinary action.
The Honourable Member for Timmins, James Bay.
Speaking of remedial steps, this minister has had some spectacular bloopers when it comes to losing the personal data of Canadians, but help me understand this one. Her department gathers the personal financial information and home addresses of key Canadians like former War Crimes Tribunal Justice Louise Arbour and diplomat Alan Gottlieb, tosses it in the mail and sends it to the media, and no alarm bells go off? How about a little accountability here? Will she tell us, did she take any concrete steps after the last breach? Because how is it possible that the information of these Canadians was so casually put at risk under her watch?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the member opposite has a flair for taking disparate things and trying to put them into one question. But having said that, this privacy breach is very serious. We do take it seriously. We are very proud of our record at CRA overall. We handle 129 million pieces of correspondence every year. We deal with millions of taxpayers and their personal information. On this particular matter, I've directed an internal investigation. We are taking steps. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for La Pointe de l'Île. In 2010, an employee of CRA lost a laptop containing tax information of 2,700 Canadians. In 2011, another CRA employee was caught snooping in the personal files of hundreds of Canadians. Earlier this year, 900 people had their personal information stolen through the heartbleed virus, and now the private information of 100 prominent Canadians was accidentally sent to CBC. After how many breaches will the Conservatives take the privacy of Canadians seriously? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, this privacy breach is completely unacceptable, and we take this situation very seriously. According to my instructions, the Canada Revenue Agency has undertaken an internal investigation into these privacy breaches and its security protocols.
As I've said, appropriate remedial steps will be taken, including disciplinary action, Mr. Speaker. We are on top of this matter.
The Honourable Member for La Pointe de l'Île. In 4 months, there were 100 privacy breaches in different departments. 100. The Conservatives cannot pretend that this is not a systematic problem. It is that's practically one breach per day. Leaking personal information, this is not the first time this has happened for the Conservatives. Instead of treating this breach as an isolated case, why don't the Conservatives do everything they can to stop this problem? The Honourable Minister.
As I said, we are proud of our record at the Canadian Revenue Agency overall in the handling of sensitive taxpayer information. We understand that it is our #1 priority, and we take it very seriously when a breach does occur. On this particular matter, we have an internal investigation that I have directed, and when we determine the outcome of that, we will take both remedial steps and disciplinary action.
A member for Westmountville, Marie.
Mr. Speaker, the Auditor General's report talks of very serious problems linked to the payment of disability benefits to wounded veterans. Jennifer Mignot, the wife of Sergeant Claude Rainville, tried desperately to speak to the Minister of Veterans Affairs earlier this year, and he ran away. Jennifer Mignot had to quit her job in order to take care of her husband. Why is the government dragging its feet on looking after people like Jennifer Mignot and her husband?
The Honourable Parliament, Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, our government has a strong record when it comes to providing benefits and services for Canada's veterans. Precisely the reason why we have spent over $30 billion since taking office, Mr. Speaker. That's $5 billion more than what the Liberals would have spent in additional dollars, Mr. Speaker. We would take no lessons from the Liberals over there. Canadians still remember that it was under the Liberal government that our men and women in uniform suffered a decade of darkness, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Guelph.
Mr. Speaker, 15,000 veterans applied for disability benefits for mental health services since 2006. Nearly one quarter were denied. 1/3 appealed, and 65% of them received the benefits they deserved. What are those frustrated and hurting who didn't appeal? Veterans who fought for our country and didn't expect to have to fight against it to get help. What is the government doing to help those frustrated thousands the Auditor General identified who gave up? Even though many were entitled to the mental health benefits, they were denied.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our commitment in Veterans Affairs Mental Health Action Plan are very clear. We are improving the disability benefit application process to reduce barriers in a timely access to benefits. We are strengthening our outreach effort to better inform the reserve forces of mental health care services, as well as reach out to families and family physicians. We will measure and report on the effectiveness of our mental health strategy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Vancouver Quadra.
Mr. Speaker, Gregory Matters was a long-serving member suffering from PTSD and released from the forces in 2009. In 2012, he was shot and killed by RCMP in Prince George while acting erratically. That very same day, Veterans Affairs had called Greg, saying that his claim for PTSD was finally approved, but he still faced more hoops to jump through before any payment would flow. And this was after literally years without help or compensation. In fact, Greg had been being treated by a psychiatrist, but on his own dime. Why won't the Conservatives stop pretending everything's okay and fix this tragic mess?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, our government has consistently increased its support for Canadian veterans. Last week, we announced additional $200 million investment to strengthen mental health services for members of the Canadian Armed Forces, veterans, and their families, Mr. Speaker. Our veterans' mental health is something our government takes very, very seriously, and we will continue to improve on those services, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Nanaimo, Cowichan.
Mr. Speaker, thousands of Labrador Inuit experience the trauma of residential schools. They deserve an apology and compensation like other survivors. But despite promising reconciliation with Indigenous peoples, Conservatives are now saying the residential schools in Newfoundland and Labrador technically don't count. Why does this government always fight Indigenous peoples every step of the way through the courts? Why not sit down with them in good faith and provide survivors with the settlement and the reconciliation that they deserve?
Good question. The Honourable Minister of Aboriginal Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, the record is clear. Our government has demonstrated its commitment to addressing the legacy of the Indian residential schools, and that is why the Prime Minister has made a historic apology on behalf of all Canadians, and we have provided near 4.2 million documents to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. We are abiding by the agreement that has been reached by all parties, and we will continue in that vein, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Abitibi Bay, James Nunavut. Mr. Speaker, Almost 100,000 boxes sit unopened, in some cases for up to 10 years, waiting to be archived. This monumental boondoggle is preventing the Truth and Reconciliation Commission from fulfilling its mandate. They cannot shed light on the injustices caused to Aboriginal people because they can't find the documents they need. The Conservatives' incompetence prevents families from turning the page and beginning their mourning. How could the minister have allowed such a mess to develop? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, the fact is that our government provided the Commission some $1.6 million to do research through Library and Archives Canada, and the fact that documents continue to be disclosed, there are millions that have been disclosed. We're going to continue to fulfill our responsibilities and Canada's commitment to all parties.
Franchement, Monsieur le Président, le vérificateur général a confirmé nos pires craintes. Le programme Nutrition Nord est un échec. Même malgré une contribution de 60 millions, les prix ne baissent pas au Nord, Monsieur le Président. APTN rapporte que les familles fouillent dans le vidange au Nunavut.
Il semble qu'il y a un problème avec la traduction encore. Est-ce qu'elle est améliorée maintenant? Est-ce qu'elle fonctionne?
1, 2.
Just,
Testing, 1, 2. Try it again. Testing.
Député pour recommencer son question.
The honourable member can start his question again. I was saying that the Auditor General confirmed our worst fears. Nutrition North is a complete failure. Despite a $60 million contribution, consumer prices are not going down. APTN has reported that families are going through the garbage in Nunavut because they don't have the means to buy food. This is happening here in Canada. This program here in 2014. If the Conservative program is not decreasing prices and not helping far-flung communities, could they at least explain to us what the purpose of the program is? Mr. Speaker, our government supports the northern residents, and we help them to be able to purchase good quality food. That's why we set up Nutrition North, and as I said yesterday, the results are very clear. In the case of Nutrition North, communities have received 25% more healthy food during the first 2 years of its existence, and the cost of a food basket for a family of 4 has gone down by $110 a month. That's something that no one can deny.
Northwest Territories.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to invite the minister to come up to my riding, to come to Lutzelkay or Fort Good Hope and repeat what he just said here. Anyone trying to feed their families in remote communities will tell you Nutrition North is not meeting their needs. Why has the minister ignored them for so long? Why did the NDP have to get the Auditor General to publicly embarrass him before he would agree to act?
Again, Mr. Speaker, the fact of the matter is that indeed Nutrition North has resulted into the average annual volume of healthy food being shipped to the north and remote communities to increase by approximately 25%. The food basket for a family of 4 has gone down by $110 a month, and this is only in the first 2 years. And that doesn't count the further investment we have just announced last week, which will see an increase of $11 million a year, so that in the next 2 years we'll spend $130 million for subsidies.
The honourable member for Elmwood Transcona.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the OECD reaffirmed that Canada has a sound fiscal footing under the leadership of our Prime Minister. Our economy is envied around the world thanks to our Conservative government's low tax plan, and over 1.2 million net new jobs have been created. But the global economy remains fragile, and the constituents of my riding of Elmwood Transcona know that we must stay the course with our low tax plan for jobs and growth. Can the Minister of Finance please update this House on what the world is saying about Canada's economy?
Hear, hear.
Minister of Finance.
I thank the member from Elmwood, Transcona, for his question. Yesterday, the International Monetary Fund's mission to Canada applauded our Conservative government for the progress we've made in eliminating deficits and also for the action to reduce taxes for hardworking Canadian families. The IMF also said our measures to ensure the long-term sustainability of the housing market were effective. Mr. Speaker, the report is further evidence that our economic action plan is doing very well. Canadians can be proud.
The honourable member for Parkdale High Park.
Well, I'm glad to see the finance minister is no longer benched. Very
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives refuse to be accountable to Canadians regarding the assistance granted to General Motors. The Auditor General has informed us that of the $4 billion paid out to GM, $1 billion went to the United States. Neither Industry Canada nor Export Development Canada had documents related to the use of these funds, the Auditor General said. Can the minister tell us what that money was used for? The Honourable Minister. Not at all. The case is that the Auditor General said.
Question. What was the purpose of the investment and what did it do? Well, it secured almost 500,000 jobs in Canada's auto sector. That's what it did, Mr. Speaker. You know, the auto sector, and directly for these two firms, Chrysler and GM, for these two firms, it directly protected 52,000 jobs in Canada. That's what this investment did, Mr. Speaker. The Auditor General has put forward 4 recommendations. We've already implemented 2 of the 4. The other 2 we're going to follow through on, Mr. Speaker, but maybe let there be no doubt. We are very proud of the work that we've done to protect and build Canada's auto sector.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we're talking about $1 billion that wasn't accounted for here, that went to the U.S. Maybe the minister should show some sense that he realizes this is a problem. Even after rejecting Chrysler and GM's initial plans, the Conservatives never bothered to follow up and look at the automakers' final restructuring. There was a troubling lack of transparency, the kind the Auditor General has flagged again and again. Can the minister even admit that there are problems?
Exactly. The Honourable Minister of Industry.
My colleague, when she was out of politics a couple years ago, worked at the Canadian Auto Workers, and here's what the Canadian Auto Workers said when she was working at the Canadian Auto Workers. They said, quote, I commend the federal government for their commitment to the Canadian auto industry. This decision, the investment she just chastised, this decision will ensure that the Canadian industry is protected. This is a very sound decision. That's what she said just 2 years ago when she worked at the Canadian Auto Workers Union. That's what they said praising our government, and we're proud to stand with Canadian Auto Workers. That's what you said.
Order. The Honourable Member for Skeena, Bulkley Valley.
$1 billion missing. You think they'd have at least a little humility to show some contrition to Canadians. Mr. Speaker, Prince Rupert is a beautiful coastal British Columbia community with proud, hardworking Canadians. You can understand their surprise and total frustration that a ferry terminal upgrade at their port will be subject to Buy America policies. On a Canadian port, on Canadian federal crown land, no Canadian steel or iron will be used. What? This is a direct result of Conservatives' failure to stand up for Canada. So why won't the Conservatives, for once, defend our interests here in Canada?
We are deeply concerned by this attempt to apply Buy American restrictions to a project at the Port of Prince Rupert. This is another example of how illogical and counterproductive it is to try and segregate our highly integrated economies. We have consistently opposed and will continue to oppose protectionist measures like Buy America restrictions. We're exploring all options to address this absurd situation.
The member from Hamilton Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives have never fought to protect Canadian workers from Buy America policies, and companies are tired of being shut out. But now they're even being shut out of projects in Canada on federally owned lands. Because of Buy America policy, steel for a northern BC ferry terminal must be bought from the U.S. excluding Canadian steel companies from places like Hamilton from even bidding. How did the Conservatives let it get this far? What are they doing to fix the situation? And when will they stand up for Canadian jobs?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I repeat, we are deeply concerned about this situation. We're weighing our options, and we will respond appropriately. But, Mr. Speaker, it's odd to hear that question come from the NDP. It was the NDP member for Burnaby, New Westminster, who in 2009 called Buy America, quote, a perfectly logical policy. I repeat, the member from Burnaby, New Westminster said that Buy America was a perfectly logical policy. On this side of the floor, we believe that Buy America is an illogical policy. We'll continue to stand up for Canadians.
The Honourable Member for York West.
Mr. Speaker, the minister clearly fell down on doing this job. He's fully aware of the fact that this BC Ferry terminal was going to end up in the hands of Buy American policies. Yep. I'd like to know, what did he do? Why wasn't he faster on the job to prevent this from happening and protecting Canada's jobs rather than standing back and abandoning Canada's jobs and Canada's industry? So when did you know? What did you do? And what are you going to do about it now?
I just need to remind the Honourable Member for York West the questions have to be put through the chair, not directly. The Honourable... Well, I think the Honourable Minister may be in a better position to answer the question than I do, so I'll give him the floor.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I will repeat. We are deeply concerned about attempts to apply Buy American policies here in Canada. This is another example of how illogical, how counterproductive these kinds of policies are. But, Mr. Speaker, I would also point out the appalling Liberal record on trade and promoting Canada's trade interests. For 13 long, dark years, they failed Canadians. 3 trade agreements over 13 years. This government, over 8 short years, 38 new trade agreements. Mr. Speaker, we're very proud of that record.
The Honourable Member for Trinity Spadina.
Last week, local leaders from across the country were on Parliament Hill asking for all of us to make hometowns proud. The request of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities was dead simple. They need funding for housing, for transit, and for water systems. There is a $400 billion infrastructure deficit in this country, and what has this government done? It's announced a cobbled-together group of plans that essentially are stated good repairs for federal assets. Nothing for cities and municipalities and towns across this country. Nothing. In fact, all they get is a 90% cut to their budget this year. When is the government going to make their hometowns proud? When are they going to make hometowns built perfectly again and fixed again?
Here. The Honourable Minister of Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, the premises of this question are completely wrong, Mr. Speaker. We already have invested a lot in last years with municipalities, and we will continue to do so. And that's under the leadership of this Prime Minister. Then finally municipalities of this country receive money we don't have received when Liberals were there. We're doing our job.
For St. John's East.
Mr. Speaker, on Monday, the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Defence implied that the Minister would finally reveal the cost of the Iraq mission at yesterday's Defence Committee meeting. But yesterday, the Minister was mum. So either his Parliamentary Secretary was misleading Canadians or the Minister got cold feet. Mr. Speaker, this is not a state secret we're talking about. The Americans have shared their costs with the American people. The Australians have shared their costs with the Australian people. The Minister has been given these costs by the Chief of Defence Staff. So when will the Minister share the costs of the Iraq mission with Canadians?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
The mission's not over. We're only into it a little over a month, and Mr. Speaker, we've indicated that we report the costs in the appropriate way through the parliamentary mechanisms. But I know there's one thing we can all agree on, that even spending $1 fighting the atrocities of ISIL will not have the support of the NDP. So at least we can have that, we can share that common.
The Honourable Member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. We're not going to give them a blank check, Mr. Speaker. The Minister told us that he would say what the mission cost. And he said when the costs were known. The problem is that he knows how much. The Chief of Defense Staff, Tom Lawson, said that he already sent the minister a cost estimate. The American mission costs $7.5 million a day. For the Australians, it's $500 million per year. How is it we do not know what it will cost Canadians? The Honourable Minister.
The No Defence Party over there doesn't want to spend anything on anything fighting the atrocities of ISIL, Mr. Speaker. One of the things they might just want to focus on for just a little bit is the human cost of doing nothing, which is what they have been advocating. Mr. Speaker, we will stand up against the atrocities committed by ISIL with or without the support of the NDP.
Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to supporting the people of Ukraine as they fight for a democracy that they have sacrificed so dearly for, all in the face of the Putin regime's military aggression. As our Prime Minister has said, whether it takes 5 months or 50 years, we will not drop the subject and we will always stand stalwart along the side of the Ukrainian people. With winter fast approaching, can the Minister of National Defence please update this House on the support that Canada is providing to the people of Ukraine?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Thank you very much. I'm proud to announce that today that Canada will be making another delivery of non-lethal aid to Ukraine. 30,000 coats and pants, 70,000 pairs of Gore-Tex boots, and 4,500 pairs of gloves that have been deemed surplus by the Canadian Armed Forces will be shipped out starting at the end of this month. The government is also coordinating the purchase and later shipment of equipment, including tactical communication systems, explosive ordnance disposal equipment, tactical medical kits, both night and thermal vision goggles. President Poroshenko has said that shipments like this have saved Canadian lives. We remain steadfast in our support for a free and
the Honourable Member for Winnipeg North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 1 week ago, in an attempt to defend the government's income splitting plan, the Minister of Employment stood in question period and read what he claimed was a quote from Marlo Reynolds, the Liberal candidate in Banff. Sun News has since retracted and apologized to Mr. Reynolds for claiming he said something that he did not say. Surely the minister's standards of decency are as high as those of Sun News. Will he please get up, withdraw his misquote, and apologize for misleading the House, Mr. Speaker?
The Honourable Minister of Employment.
That Liberal candidate, that Liberal member, every Liberal member opposes tax fairness for families. Yeah. They oppose the child care benefit. They oppose $3,800 in benefits for single moms with 2 kids under the age of 6. They oppose tax cuts for family. They voted against the Ways and Means motion recently, Mr. Speaker. They want to take these benefits away from families, and they do so because they believe that Liberal politicians know better how to spend money than moms and dads. We profoundly disagree on this side, Mr.
Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the consensus and the efforts of the people of the Quebec region are starting to bear fruit. The Minister of Infrastructure is starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, or rather the bridge in this case. He finally decided to pick up the phone and speak to his provincial and municipal counterparts in order to find a solution. All he needs to do now is find the paintbrush that Jean Lapierre and the Liberals lost. Will the minister keep his promise to the Prime Minister's promise, and ensure that the repairs are completed to the Pont du Québec? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, as we've already said, there is a legal process that's underway. There's a decision that's come down recently, and we'll continue to have discussions with the various stakeholders in this file. But one thing is sure, the NDP is not to thank themselves for the discussions that are underway.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In an increasingly globalized world, it's vital that Canadian businesses have access to dynamic and fast-growing markets in order to create jobs and long-term prosperity for hard-working Canadians and their families. Our Conservative government has a proven track record of opening new markets for Canadian exporters. As you just recently heard, Mr. Speaker, from the Minister of International Trade, our government has signed free trade agreements with 38 countries. Mr. Speaker, can the tireless and hard-working Minister of International Trade please update Canadians on our government's latest efforts to create jobs and prosperity through trade? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
I thank my friend from Kelowna Lake Country for that excellent question, Mr. Speaker. And I am pleased to inform this House that the Canada-Korea Free Trade Agreement passed third reading in the Senate. Canadian companies will soon have preferential access to South Korea, which will become a strategic gateway for Canadian businesses into Asia. This agreement will increase Canadian exports to South Korea by 32% and boost our economy by almost $2 billion annually. Exporters from across our country asked us to support them as they compete in the global marketplace, and once again, we're delivering.
Mr. Speaker, for over 40 years, my constituents in Castlegar, Blueberry, Janelle, and Rivervale have been able to sleep without being disturbed by trains at night. But now CP has begun to run night trains without prior warning. The community has made its opposition very clear in 2 public meetings. Letters have been written. People are upset. Mr. Speaker, lives have been severely disrupted. Right now, there's no incentive for CP to find a solution or to work with the local community to find a compromise. Will the Minister work with me to help convince CP Rail that a workable solution is possible and will benefit all?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Transport.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Obviously, in the Minister's place right now, I won't commit her to a specific action, but I will take this matter under advisement to her. Of course, in all of these circumstances, we encourage railway companies, however, to speak directly with municipalities and work on these issues.
The Honourable Member for Haute-Gaspésie. Mr. Speaker, there is a reality underlying the Energy East Trans-Canada project. People who live in natural environments that are fragile are badly affected by the passage of this. Farmers are very worried for their lands and peatlands and sensitive ecosystems that are threatened. The further the project gets along, the more people are opposed to the passage of 1 million barrels per day of oil under their feet. Will the Minister of Natural Resources listen to the opposition to Energy East and stop claiming, as the leader of the NDP says, that such a pipeline close to the St. Lawrence is a sensible option? The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources. Mr. Speaker, contrary to their position, we will not take a position before the assessment is done. The National Energy Board is hearing from those directly affected who have relevant information or knowledge in this area. We will wait for this process before taking a decision. We've been clear the projects will be studied, and only projects that are safe for Canadians and not a threat to the environment will be approved.
I would like to draw to the attention of honourable members the presence in the gallery of the Honourable Randy Delory, Minister of Environment and Minister of Gaelic Affairs for the province of Nova Scotia. The Chair has notice of... Okay, I have several points of order. I'll go first to the one I got notice about, the Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to rise on a point of order regarding the question period. Mr. Speaker, the leader of the Liberal Party has made reckless and inaccurate and false comments on an important safety and security issue, therefore misleading the House, Mr. Speaker. The member is wrong about the Common Sense Firearms Licensing Act and the facts, Mr. Speaker.
Order. Order. That seems like a debate more than a point of order, and the minister is free to make those points at in a future question period, perhaps, or when the bill's debated. See the honourable member for Papineau rising. Suspicious this may not be a point of order either, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
It's a response. If that's not appropriate, I'll sit down.
What's that?
It's a...
Well...